It's Thursday, February 22nd. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, an episode full of GeekBacks.
Let's do this.
Tomorrow, Friday, February 23rd, is the first day of the second New York Comic Convention.
Outstanding. I'm so excited. I'm so glad that I spent $30 to spend a few hours there.
Yeah, the convention is only open tomorrow for normal people from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
And it still costs $30 to get in,
and
just for that time.
It still costs $30. And yeah, well, we'll be reporting on it next week, but if you want to see us there, we'll be there tomorrow only. We won't go on Saturday or Sunday because we're busy, and I'm never going to go to a Comic-Con for more than one day.
I don't know. I'm mostly going so I can say, unless this con is awesome, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to a Comic-Con.
I'm going mostly to see certain people, to enhance my pirate sketchbook, and to gather information about this convention so I can report on it.
If I hadn't already bought my ticket, I totally would have copped out and not gone.
Yeah. Oh, well. We'll see. I think I might actually, depending on what goes on there, I don't know if I'll ever go to it again. That's basically what it is. It's like a litmus test.
Well, considering the track record, they're batting 0 right now.
Yeah, well, they only took one swing, and I don't know if it's 3 strikes you're out on the convention circuit like it is in baseball, but I got to give everyone at least 2 strikes.
I don't know. The way it happened, it wasn't like they just struck. It was like someone threw the ball. Instead of swinging at it, they stood there. It went by. Then they beat the catcher to death, went after the pitcher, caused a riot, and burned down the stadium.
Yeah, well, this convention does have a slight advantage in that it is so big and high profile that, not as high profile as San Diego, but high profile enough that there will be a significant anime and gaming presence that I can retreat to if the comicness overwhelms me.
Yeah, we'll see how well. I can't imagine their video game room will be big enough to deal with the number of people who will be wandering around looking for something to do.
Oh, the video game room was actually the one part of the con I got to see last year, and it was, it wasn't like an awesome game katsu, but hey, it was pretty big and spacious and had games to play, and game companies were there.
Yeah, but anyway, welcome to all of our new listeners. We see you've all been joining the forums. I would mostly like to say to anyone who has joined the forums and not gotten an approval email, you actually did, and your Hotmail spam filter blocked it. We have yet to not approve a single one of you.
Yes, many people have applied, and all have been given the thumbs up. If you use Hotmail, you just won't find out that you've got the thumbs up because your email is crappy. Get Gmail.
Yeah, totally. But anyway, in the news here, because I want to get right along. We did a long show last night, and we've been generally going along for a while now. I don't want to run out the biggest libsyn.
Yeah, if we run out of Libsyn, we're gonna our 4 nights a week is gonna turn into 3 real quick.
Actually, I already talked to him, and we could very easily pay to get better Libsyn service beyond what is offered on the website.
Well, if we ever get near the quota, that's, I think, what we're gonna do.
But anyway, we got a little bit of local color here because I just find this hilarious. Now, there are 2 malls up in Dutchess County, the mid-Hudson Valley, one of which is old and decrepit and is eventually going to be torn down.
But it's awesome.
Oh, it's totally awesome.
It has an anime store in it.
But while it's awesome, notwithstanding, it is decrepit and falling apart and almost no one goes there.
And a lot of the stores are empty, and you could totally rent one for cheap.
For cheap, you could probably rent one for free just to keep the place from looking like it's empty.
We should.
But there's also a mall directly next to it that is not new and fancy, but it's pretty much the newest mall around here. And it's a standard, normal mall. It's no better than the one in Rochester.
Yeah, it's your standard 2-story American mall. It's got a Target, it's got a Best Buy, it's got a bunch of department stores, it's got an EB, it's got a food court.
Now, the weird thing about this mall, it's a normal mall, it has a giant parking lot, but for some godforsaken reason, I still to this day can't fathom why they would do this. They have a big enough parking lot already. It's plenty big, it goes around the whole thing, there's plenty of land around it. They built on one side of it this 1 extra story parking garage that was so shoddily put together and put up against the mall and had these horrible support beams everywhere under it. It was just useless, hard to get into, hard to get out of, an eyesore. What were they thinking?
Well, it's
Technology
not-
back then existed to make a better parking garage, and they had enough parking anyway.
Well, it's not really a parking garage. It's more like a deck. It's like there's a parking lot, and then raised above it on stilts and I-beams is another parking lot. That way, if you park up there, you can just walk right into the Best Buy on the second floor, because the only other way to park and walk into the second floor of the mall is at the Target, and the Best Buy isn't the Target's on the bottom floor? I don't even remember.
Yes.
I can't even remember how this mall is laid out.
Regardless, they had this terrible, just poorly thought out parking garage.
I think a long time ago they must have built that thing and paid nothing for it, and it's a piece of shit.
The mall's not that old.
I don't know, man. That parking thing looked pretty old.
No, it's not old. They just didn't want to pay money. The thing is built like in that shoddy way.
Yeah. I mean, the mall next to my house has like 2 different parking decks that are the same kind of thing on opposite ends of the mall, but they're sturdy as all hell. They're not going anywhere.
So the interesting story here is that apparently during the snowstorm that had happened right before Katsukan last week, there was a lot of snow. And the people who were in charge of the mall decided to have all of the snow from around the top of it plowed into one area of it, and it proceeded to collapse.
Well, what was funny is that the thing was already sort of collapsing. I mean, there was an area of the parking deck that you weren't allowed to park in that was roped off.
You weren't allowed to park under it either, and it was ever growing.
Yeah, and you could actually stand there and the safe part of the deck and look at the collapsing part and go, wow, that's totally collapsing. And if I had any forethought at all, I would have realized, hey, when it snows, that's going to put a lot of weight on that area and it's going to cave in. Someone should
it
fix
wouldn't have, and it was fine. The thing is, when they were plowing the top of it, they used big, big bulldozers instead of normal little snow plows, and they pushed all the snow into that area because that way it would be out of the way of the cars because no one could park there anyway.
What were they thinking?
I think they were thinking, well,
the evil parking lot of doom finally collapsed. Will they build a new one? ?
Now, the funny thing is the local municipal government has the power to, they haven't said if they're going to do it yet, fine them up to $1,000.
I thought they did. They gave him a ticket for $1,000.
They said they were going to. I never saw anything that they actually did. And they have the option of assigning some trivial amount of jail time, but they said they're not going to pursue it.
Man,
It's the same ticket that they'd give some guy if the deck in front of his house collapsed.
Yeah, I mean, if someone had like a shoddy deck, basically you're breaking code. You should be forced to fix it. Like,
wait a minute.
Fix it or else.
You're the one who not too long ago tried to argue with me that we shouldn't have any sort of building code whatsoever.
The difference here is that you've got a mall that people are going to.
Oh, so suddenly there is a rationale for having building codes.
If it's a publicly traveled place.
That's
It's a private house where you're not inviting anyone over.
That's a bit of a reversal from your previous position. But anyway, I just thought this was funny because the fact that this thing collapsed due to human stupidity and the fact that it's been there for so long, and plus, more importantly, I couldn't find anything else I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to talk about Britney Spears or Anna Nicole, what's her name. I'm still not entirely clear on who that is.
I'm only partially sure of who that is, and I know who Britney Spears is, but I haven't known about anything she's done since I was in high school.
There's some guy named K-Fed. I think he's a rapper or something who knew her. I don't know. There's all that news, and then there's all that political news that if you want political news, just go to our forums.
Yeah, someone else is talking about it, not me. I don't care.
So that's all I got. What do you want?
All right, so I don't know if you've noticed, but there was a crazy kid. I don't know. I forget where. Was it Georgia? I wasn't paying attention to where it was. And he was bad, and he killed a homeless guy.
Wait, so he was bad, and independent of that, he killed a homeless guy?
No, not independent of that. He was bad, and he was a bad kid who killed a homeless guy.
Yeah, apparently for fun.
Yeah, and he was like, yeah, I did it. What of it? And
I do what I want. I do what I want.
He was a bad dude, and he blamed it on video games, or even if he didn't, the media totally tried to pin it on the video games as usual. And Penny Arcade had the usual comment, like, here we go again. And I can't be sure if it's true or not, because I'm always skeptical. But supposedly, the stepmother of this bad kid is a Penny Arcade reader who sent a big letter to Gabe. And Gabe put the letter on the Penny Arcade website. Now, if it's actually from the stepmom, who knows? I'm 75% sure it's real and 25% sure it's not
Regardless, I suggest you read it because I have met people who have been in similar situations to what this woman is describing.
Yep. Now, I read the letter like 2 times, and I read it, and I said, you're right. There is nothing you could have done. You know, you had this horrible kid. You know, you tried real hard as parents. You did everything you possibly could. You punished him. You tried positive enforcement, negative reinforcement, counseling, talking to people. You did pretty much everything in your power to do, and the kid remained bad. Meanwhile, his brother was good. So you're obviously doing some sort of parenting, right? What is the deal?
So Scott comes home, and I hadn't read this, so he's showing it to me on the Mac downstairs. We're sitting on the couch, and he's like, yeah, I agree with it. There's nothing you could have done. And I look at him and I say, what about military school?
Well, yeah, we sort of came up with it like, hey, there is something you could have done.
Yeah.
You could have sent the kid to military school, and the internet seems to be agreeing with us.
Yes. However, then we looked it up, and military school is not as prevalent as it used to be.
Yeah, it's sort of like the same issue with nut houses. Like, back in the day, we had nut houses, but they were terrible places, and you would never want to send anyone to one of those nut houses, no matter how nutty they were. So they got rid of the nut houses, and now we have nuts roaming the streets.
Yeah,
which
I mean,
is just as bad.
We talk a lot. Well, we don't, but we as a nation talk a lot about the homeless problem in major cities. But all the statistics show that the majority of those people who aren't in shelters and getting help are also insane.
Yeah, who knows if they went insane because of homelessness or if they are homeless because of insanity. It's probably a mixture of both. Who knows? But the fact is they're insane now, and they're homeless now, and they need help, and we need a good nut house to take care of these people, but we have to pay for it with some taxes.
Yeah, now the thing
it's
is,
the same thing with bad kids. We have bad kids, and we got nothing to do with them, and no parent can control them. We need some sort of military academy, boarding school to send these kids to, because the only other option seems to be that they're going to kill a homeless guy and go to jail.
Granted, I still think that in most cases, a kid, while the parent might not have intentionally done anything, or might not have even been a particularly bad parent, there were just some set of factors in the way they raised the kid, possibly due to not punishing them enough when they were young if they did bad things, or not teaching them proper respect, or just not, I don't know, there's a lot of things.
There are a lot of things. I mean, there was some guy who pointed out, like, he looked into the ages of the people involved, and he's like, hey, you had these kids when you were way young. He's like, you're 29 and the kid's 14. No wonder you got a problem taking care of him. Something. And I was like, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my brother and I turned out just fine.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that as kids, we actually had almost no. In fact, in high school, I always was amazed because I didn't have any curfews or anything. And I had a credit card to pay for gas for my car. That was all I was supposed to use it for. And pretty much, I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, because my parents trusted me, and I never knocked over a bank or killed a homeless guy.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, no one is quite really sure what the factors are that make people turn out the way they are. It's sort of like random baking. You put a bun in the oven, and you never know what comes out.
Well, if you're a good baker, you do.
Yeah, but you just kind of have to. It's like mystery baking, not actual baking, you know? But when a bad kid comes out and where a nut comes out, you got to have something to do with them. And therefore, we say that there should be good, nice nut houses and practical military and boarding academies of some sort.
Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, Rimmon Scott, but you always say you're libertarians. How come you're for, spending tax dollars on something? And 1, libertarian with a lowercase L, and 2, common good.
Yeah. I mean, would you rather have nuts walking around the street? Sure, you're free to walk around the street. But if you're a nut, or if you're a bad person who's going to, kill people, then you're a danger to others, which is you've gone beyond your freedom and we need to take you out somehow. Yeah. And if we're going to do that, then we need somewhere to put you. And that's all that is.
Now, Scott doesn't drink alcohol at all, and I drink it in moderation. I like wine with dinner, and I like an occasional Southern Comfort at a convention.
I like me some grape juice and some grape juice.
Yeah, you like grape juice before it's turned into wine. You like that wuss juice.
Oh, it's so great. It totally cleans out everything.
See, I will actually say I don't particularly enjoy grape juice.
You suck.
At all.
You suck.
But I really like wine, and I really like other juices and nectars.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, but anyway, one thing, now I read about this a long time ago in a guide on how to drink like a Russian. And apparently in Russia, there is a huge, huge social stigma to drinking alone. That is the sign of a sad individual. Well, I tend to agree with that.
That's true everywhere.
Yeah, while I agree with it, it's very much like it's especially stigmatized in Russia for various reasons.
Because Russia has a huge alcoholism problem and they try to thwart it with social stigma?
I mean, apparently what alcoholics will do in Russia, I read this, however, in Dig, is that they'll stand outside a bar and wait for other alcoholics to gather, and then they'll pretend to be friends and go in so they can all drink and not look like losers. So some enterprising young person has decided to create a product to mitigate this very, very important problem of, I am alone and I want to drink. So now we have the USB shot glass.
Wait, so you go to the liquor store, you buy some Vodak.
Yes.
You bring it home.
Yep, you pour it into your USB shot glass, which is plugged into your computer, and you're plugged into a chat room with some sort of Vodak meter software and a bunch of other lonely alcoholics. You then proceed to drink with these people via this online mechanism, pouring your own Vodak.
So what does the USB do? Does it cool the Vodak?
No. All it does is show how much Vodak is in your Vodak glass.
To everyone else?
Yeah.
Does it count how many Vodaks you've drunken?
I don't know. I'd assume the software could do something
How does it
like
know
that.
I'm not just pouring the Vodak out back into the bottle?
If you want to sit there sober, hanging out with a bunch of drunk people on the internet, that's your prerogative.
But I can get them to think that I've drinking like 80 Vodaks.
I imagine they'll know in one way or another.
I don't know why they even need to do this. You could just use a webcam, and then people can see you drink. It's a lot easier than a USB shot glass.
Mostly, this is just kind of a silly gadget. But two, it is a little more practical than a webcam. I mean, what if you want to be naked while you're drinking? Now you don't have to worry about that. What if
you're going to be naked while you're drinking? That's more reason to have a webcam, not less.
What if you're ugly?
Then you deserve to be drinking alone, and no one wants to see you or talk to you or drink with you.
But no, while this actual implementation is kind of silly, the idea of it's kind of neat. Because when you're drinking with friends, one important aspect of it is always, you can see what is in everyone else's glass, and you can gauge the progress, you can gauge how much everyone's drinking and in what context and all that. And you lose that drinking on the internet. Of course, why you'd want to be drinking on the internet is beyond me.
I guess I didn't realize that sort of thing was paid attention to because I don't drink.
Well, yeah, it is. But in Russia, because drinking, I guess, is a much bigger deal, there is now this silly device. I don't know how seriously people are actually going to take it over there. I find it hilarious, if nothing else.
It is definitely pretty hilarious that eventually there'll be USB everything, and then USB will be obsolete, and we'll have wireless USB or something else, and it'll be crazy. All right, so I often use stories on this podcast about F1 racing, which is a sport that I am quite fond of, that other people may have varying levels of caring about it.
Yeah, I'm probably the next biggest fan of F1 in the front row crew, and I have no desire to watch it at all.
Yeah, so this guy, he's some sort of auto reviewing for magazine journalist guy, and he got a chance to ride in an F1 car. Now, not just any F1 car. A 4-year-old F1 car. So this car is old and slow. Not only is it old and slow, it was also one of the slowest and shittiest cars that year. Like, it came in last all the time. It's a slow and shitty F1 car. And he drove it, and it was the craziness. And even if you don't like F1 or care about racing, I think that you should read this little 3-page article, because it's the best way to get an idea of exactly why and how F1 is crazier than every other possible type of racing on the earth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't enjoy watching it other than maybe the first 2 laps and the last 2 laps, or the lap where whoever passes whoever. Other than that, I don't care. But the technology behind F1 is actually a big deal, and it's really neat science.
Yeah, and this guy, like, he's driving this car like 170 miles an hour, and he approaches this turn, and he's fearing for his life because he's going so incredibly fast. Basically everything's a blur. You can't even see what's going on. So he steps on the brakes, and the brakes are so incredibly powerful that he actually broke too soon. And then you realize, you compare his speed to, like, the speed of Michael Schumacher, the greatest driver, and the guy who drove this car in races, who was the shittiest F1 driver, and you go, wow, I'm totally not laughing at that shitty F1 driver anymore, because that guy went into this crazy turn at ludicrous speed and broke later.
Yeah, I mean, the worst driver in F1 is still one of the best drivers in the world.
Yeah, it's actually pretty big news. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but in shitty NASCAR, a former F1 driver and possibly soon 2 former F1 drivers are racing in NASCAR.
Oh, really?
Yeah, JPM is Juan Pablo Montoya. He's driving in NASCAR. He was in the Daytona 500, but then I think he got crashed in the final lap or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy race, actually, the Daytona 500. But whatever, it's not as good as the F1s.
Right. So tonight, kind of a short episode because, again, we're tired from Katsukan, and we went long last night, obviously.
Yep.
I had a bunch of interviews from last night that instead of putting them in the show because we went long, I'll use them for a special someday. You'll hear them. We recorded a bunch of stuff at Katsukan, which was fun.
Yep.
But we've always gone 50-50 on what we're about to do since, on one hand, half of our listeners really like Geekbacks, where we read email or stuff from the forums or things people send us. And they tell us to have more, and they send us email in hopes of being on the show. And on the other hand, the other half of our listeners hate it and don't want to hear from other people. They want to hear from us.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of torn on this myself, and it seems like at some podcasts I listen to, all I want to hear is the host talking, and I don't want to hear their stupid listeners. But other podcasts I listen to,
like Dragon's Landing,
I only want to hear them respond to listener emails and voicemails, and I don't give a shit about what they have to say. Well, not as much of a shit about what they have to say.
Well, if you don't give a shit, why are you even listening?
I listen to the feedback episodes only. But yeah, it's kind of a toss-up, so I figure we'll do it one more time, see what the hell happens.
Yep, so we'll do it tonight partly because it's also a great cop-out episode. It requires almost no effort other than looking at all the emails we've gotten.
It's also a lot of fun and it makes listeners excited, so why not?
And also, right now, I'll tell you all out there that and we respond to a lot of the email we get, but if we don't respond to you, don't worry, we read your email. We read every email we get that isn't spam.
Yep, just some emails I got nothing to say to. Mostly if you just send me a link, I got nothing to say to you.
Yeah, or if someone just says, hey, I love the show, I'm not going to bother saying thanks. You thank me enough by listening, and whatever. I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Plus,
sometimes I do mean to reply, and then I don't reply immediately, so the email sits there, but it's marked as read, so I don't look at it again, and then you fall down the queue.
Yep. There's also the fact that sometimes an email, we don't really have anything to respond to it, or maybe it asks a question that requires a complex answer. Usually we ruminate on that and eventually do a show on it.
Yeah. Oh, well. I'll start off here with the first email.
All right, I wouldn't read that whole thing. It's long.
I'm not, but basically there's a guy named Mike O'Neill, and he has a company called Mr. Smith, which he is the owner and designer. And this company sells the Jimmy.
Now, you might remember
Jimi.
that we, a while ago, bought these wallets on the show where it's talked about it, so we could try them out because they were kind of weird.
Yes, the Jimmy is a strange, non-standard wallet. It's basically a small plastic thing that holds credit cards and cash and your ID and all this stuff, and it's pretty cool, and we both use them for wallets. And
yeah, I really like the wallet, and actually whenever I pull my wallet out, at least half the time whoever I'm paying money to says something like, wow, what kind of wallet is that? Where can I get one?
Yeah, people always comment like, whoa, what's up with that wallet? Why is it all weird? Ooh.
And the company that does, the Jimmy company, they're really socially responsible and recycled goods and money to the environment and all that business.
Yeah, what was it, like 1% of revenue goes to the environment?
Yeah,
whatever.
That's cool.
It's all right. I don't really care either way. But anyway.
Well, that's because you're a godless heathen.
Yeah, okay. So they also sell some other cool stuff. Like they have some new SD card clips. So like if you have a lot of SD cards for your digital camera, they have stuff that holds them.
I was actually thinking of getting that iPod Nano case because my cover, it's great for carrying it around. It's not so great for listening to stuff while I'm carrying it around.
Oh, that's right. They do. They sell an iPod Nano case, man. Yeah, I forgot about that. Maybe I'll get one too. Anyway, yeah, so apparently we've told a lot of people about this wallet all the time because people comment on it. And someone we told about it went to the website, bought the Jimmy wallet, and said they heard about it from Geeknights.
Yeah.
So the guy who runs the company emailed us and he was like, hey, someone bought my wallet and they heard about it from you. Do you want some stuff?
Well, mostly he just wanted to say thanks. And
yeah.
I think that's cool. I mean, we weren't trying to promote the product. We just actually liked the product.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it sort of randomly. Like, my last wallet died. And I said, you know what? There has to be something better out there than a wallet. And I actually found a whole bunch of stuff, but most of it was expensive or hard to get. The Jimmy was easy to get. I bought it from a website, and it was cheap. And I figured, if this thing doesn't work out for me, I'll just put it away and get something else. And it's worked out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
this is not a paid for anything.
Yeah, don't think that we're advertising. I think to all of our new listeners, we dislike advertising more than just about anything in the world.
Yeah, we're not going to take sponsors or sell ads or anything. We are legitimately happy with this product, and we bought it with no persuasion whatsoever.
In fact, I bought it mostly so I could hate on it and make fun of it, and the fact that I liked it was kind of...
Yeah, and then we used it, and we still use it, and now the guy who makes it knows about us, and he's cool.
All right, so here's a fun one. Hey guys, I've recently started an anime club at my school, and I'm having trouble picking a good, funny anime to screen. I choose Death Note. I choose you, Pikachu. But most people have already seen much of the show, and I was wondering if you guys, spelled with a lowercase u, could tell me a good shonen-style anime that most people have not seen yet.
That's a run-on sentence right there.
From Abdul in Sydney.
Sydney, Australia. Oh, P.S. Sorry for such a noob question. Lol.
Yeah, I can think of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, I replied to the email, and I was like, a funny shonen. Well, Cromartie, Excel Saga maybe, Gokudo, Slayers.
You pretty much named all the stuff I would have named.
Yeah, Naruto, One Piece, whatever. You know, I named a bunch of stuff. Oh, Dominion Tank Police.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the guy replied with, thanks a lot. I started watching Slayers and am really enjoying it. No period.
Yeah, fair warning. When we get email, we're going to make fun of pretty much any mistake you make. Don't take it personally.
Yes, we will make fun of your punctuation and spelling.
Oh, I see a pretty good typo in the next one on this list.
Oh, I see a good one too. All right. So yeah, if you're looking for more anime, it's not really hard to find them. If you're someone who, you want to watch anime, but there's so much anime out there and you've only recently gotten into the hobby or the, whatever it is, the culture, and you're not really, there's thousands of anime. Which ones do you watch next? A good idea, actually, is to go to, the Anime News Network Encyclopedia, and you can sort of browse anime by genre, and you can, find an anime you like and click on the director and see what else they directed. And it's a pretty good way to find shows you might be interested in.
Yeah, of course, you can always just ask us because we'll usually answer. And without a beat, I could always say watch Cowboy Bebop, Utena, Escaflowne, Evangelion, Trigun Lane.
Yep, something like that. All right, what's the next one say?
We could do this other one with the typo.
All right, yeah, do the one with the typo.
All right, I like this one. Would you guys happen to know of any cons going on in the Boston area? Thanks, Steve.
Well, the subject of the email is computer cons.
See, now that throws me for a loop because I know about Anime Boston, but I don't really go to computer cons, so...
Yeah, if you're looking for an anime convention near you, there is a website called anime-cons.com, and they have every anime convention. So don't ask us about if there's an anime convention near you. There's a website that lists all of them that you can go to. As for a computer con, that's more difficult. I mean, do they really have computer cons?
Well, there was PenguinCon.
Yeah, PenguinCon was a Linux convention in Michigan. There's DEF CON and things like that, which are like the hacker cons. I think there's one in Vegas and one in New York. I'm not sure. But yeah, what other kind of computer cons are there? I don't really know.
I don't know what I do at a computer con. I mean, honestly, there's not much I'm going to learn from a computer con that I can't just learn from a book or the internet. And I already went to college.
Yeah, I mean, there's computer conferences where you can go listen to people give speeches like O'Reilly something, but... those cost a lot of money, and it's not the same as an anime convention. It's not a social fun thing. It's just
PenguinCon was a social fun thing.
PenguinCon
was
PenguinCon
awesome.
didn't have so much, it was more sci-fi gaming going on there.
Oh, the panels were almost all computer stuff.
The panels were computery, that is correct, huh? Yeah, PenguinCon's sort of unique in that way. I don't know. No computer cons. All right, let's pick another email here. Oh, here we go, let's see. Hey, Rim and Scott, longtime listener, first-time mailer. Love the show, and I don't know how you can put the level of content at the quality you do each night. It's magic. Oh, all these are exclamation points. I don't know if I'm the first person listening in the UK, but you are international.
We have a lot of listeners in Australia and the United Kingdom, well, Albion.
Yes, we have a lot of listeners throughout the English-speaking world and outside of the English-speaking world.
You know where we don't have any listeners is France.
Oh, really?
As far as I can tell. So if we got any French listeners, give us a shout out.
Yep. Let's see. The networking show was really good. I did some networking a while ago, so it was a good refresher and has got me thinking I need to get up to speed with it all again! Exclamation point. Please feel free to do another show on this as it was really interesting. Am I right in thinking that there are certain IP ranges or numbers that cannot be used together? As I said, I'm rusty, man. Cheers, Rob.
IP ranges are numbers that cannot be used together. Really just comes down to if you have two separate networks that use the same, like if I've got my network that says 10 dot whatever and someone else has their network that is also internally 10 dot whatever, you can't just stick the two together. You got to change one of the sides or in some way reconcile that.
Yeah, two computers on the same network can't have the same exact IP address. That's all it comes down to.
Barring fun things like multicast, but we're not. Multicast is well beyond the layman's networking thing. We're going to have to do a special show on that, and I don't think anyone would want to hear it.
No, that would be a very boring
Even
show.
though I think multicast is really cool.
Yeah, but who uses it?
A lot of people, actually.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, we use it at IBM for images.
Oh.
Sending, sending an image, a hard drive image to 100 machines. We could multicast it to all those machines at once instead of sending 100 packets to each machine over and over.
Doesn't IPv6 have stuff to do with that?
IPv6 has some awesome stuff like that.
All right.
I should do a show on IPv6. Talk about what it is.
A lot of people don't understand that at all, mostly because, well, we could do it after we do a show on NAT.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I like this one. It's nice and short. Just found your podcast. I have to tell you that your podcast about IP addressing was awesome. Would love to have a show about creating a home network, wireless versus wired, etc. Can't wait to hear your other podcast. Cheers, Al from Rhode Island. Wow, Rhode Island.
Yeah, that state's so small. I didn't think that there would be anyone in it who listened to podcasts.
Yeah, what I can say is very briefly, since that networking in layman's terms went over so well, we are going to probably do every aspect of networking with the same level of technical talking and the same level of metaphor. So expect a bunch more of those to come as soon as we get around to it.
Let's see. Oh, here's another one about the IP episode as well. I don't think I'm going to read this whole thing, but I'll skip to the part where we actually asked some questions. I have an idea for a while now and wanted to run it by someone who's interested in your opinion. Okay. Most of the viruses, spam, malware on the internet is propagated by armies of botnets, i.e. infected PCs. Yep, that's true. Most of the viruses are written to send spam, and apart from taking a percentage of the resources of a machine, they don't do anything seriously malicious, and consequently, most people are unaware that they have them. That is sort of true, but a lot of those spywares and things actually will steal your PayPals or your eBays,
yes,
or all kinds of evil stuff like that.
You may not have met any of them, but rest assured, it happens.
It happens a lot. Sure, there are really bad viruses that collect your credit card details, etc., but I personally don't know anyone who's had their identity hacked or been the subject of fraud. Anyways, what I think we need is a white hat. I've actually heard of a lot of people who have been the subject of fraud, but I gotta say right now, I don't like this term identity theft. Identity theft is if I go around the street with Rim's ID in a Rim disguise pretending to be Rim. That is identity theft. I mean, sure, technically, if I take Rim's credit card and buy something with it, you could say I'm pretending to be Rim
Scott,
and buying something.
What they usually refer to when you do identity theft is when you gather enough information about a person to poses them in order to get lines of credit.
Yes, but you're not actually, your crime is credit fraud. That's the crime. Sure, you're posing as them because you're using their information instead of your information.
Yes,
but
hence identity theft.
Yeah, but your crime is credit fraud. Identity theft it would be a crime where I pretend to be someone else, like
but
a
you
spy.
are pretending to be someone else.
Only technically and not so literally.
I disagree with you 100%.
I don't like the way they call it identity theft. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying.
It's a disagreement about a label. So
I know. I'm just saying that I disagree with your assessment.
All right. I obviously, yes, you are using someone else's identity to achieve a crime of credit fraud, but I don't like calling it identity theft. That's all I'm saying.
You're just weird.
You're just weird. Hacker who basically writes a virus that simply trashes any machine it infects, thus schooling the user on the virtues of running a decent OS, or at least patching/protecting it. Most virus writers would never write this.
I can answer that real quickly. That used to happen a lot more often than it does now, but it wasn't white hats. I can tell you that.
No, it wasn't.
Basically, all that did was cause the FBI and various organizations to hunt down the people who made the viruses and piss a lot of people off. But the people who were angry didn't even try to secure themselves. They just did damage control and went right along doing what they were doing before.
Yeah, there are banks that get hacked all the time, but the banks will never say they were hacked, and we have no idea of knowing how much effort they put into actually securing their fences, because they would lose more money if people found out that they were insecure than they lose by people hacking into them. So Your crazy idea of going around and erasing everyone's hard drives with an actually evil virus is a crazy, very immature and childish idea.
Granted, I had the same idea when I was 14.
I also had the same idea when I was 14, and now that I'm 24, I no longer have this idea.
I think part of the reason we don't have the idea anymore is that now we're business professionals in our industry, and we have to deal with that shit.
Even if I didn't have to deal with it, I would strongly advise against anyone actually making a horribly evil virus, although I am often puzzled as to why no one's done it. You'd think that with all these bad guys on the internet and with such insecure systems everywhere, with all these Windows zombie
Because the people who
machines-
write the viruses aren't motivated by being hackers. They're motivated by being paid by spammers.
Yep. The people who are motivated by being hackers nowadays, they're not hacking other people or causing harm to others. They're trying to increase benefits for themselves, like getting rid of DRM and stuff like that.
Of course, what if we took this idea, but instead of making it do something malicious, we made it pop up a window saying, your computer is insecure.
Because
Here's how to fix it.
Because we're trying to teach people not to click on those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the last one you should click on.
Yep. Thoughts? We gave you the thoughts. Regards, Christian.
All right. Ooh, here's a cool one. Remember when I had jury duty?
Yeah.
I just listened to the podcast on jury duty.
Oh.
I'll try to read this quickly. It's kind of long.
Yeah.
Funny thing happened to me. I was supposed to call an 800 number, go back in December to see if I will be selected for jury duty. I forgot, and then I remembered the following Monday. I kind of freaked out.
Shit.
Kind of freaked out. My wife sent me a text message freaking out like something bad happened, realized what I did. So I called the courthouse and told them I forgot. They said it was no big deal. They figured I'd forgotten. They'd already rescheduled it in March. And if he gets selected to go, he'll report his experience to us.
Oh, I'd like to hear that experience.
Yeah, great show.
If you forget
listened-
again, I would like to hear that as well.
Yeah, this is Steve from, he doesn't say where he's from. Not that it matters, since this is the internet. We're all sovereign members of this nation.
Yeah.
Nation of the internet.
Yeah, everyone still send in jury duty stories if you have them, because jury duty is cool.
Yeah, but I gotta say, it seems like, this guy had the same experience. The courts are doing their best to make jury duty okay for people. They could have, totally screwed you if you didn't show up, but instead they did the right thing and just obviously forgot. Let's just reschedule him.
Yeah, no one would act, anyone who's trying to get out of jury duty always tries to get out of it straight away. They'll call up and make an excuse, or they'll show up and try to give a story. Someone who just doesn't show up, most of the time, like 90% of the time, either something happened to them or they forgot. And I think the court realizes that. All right, we got to pick another email here.
All right, I see a really long one.
I see a short one. That's better. Did you guys hear the Penn show about the moon landing? Here is a show talk about the moon landing and why it is true. Thanks for professionalism, Brian. P.S. After hearing the professionalism show, I want to party with you guys.
Well, you should have come to Katsukan.
Yes, you should have come to Katsukan. If you want to party with us, you must come to a convention that we are at. As for the moon landing...
I gotta say this. One of my favorite moments in the history of the world is when some nut job was bothering Buzz Aldrin about how he didn't really go to the moon and it's all a conspiracy. And Buzz Aldrin just punched the dude in the face.
That was an awesome time.
That was the proper response to that kind of thing.
To anyone out there who's a crazy conspiracy nut, guess what? They landed on the moon.
Yeah, and those markers on the backs of road signs don't direct the UN troops to the secret concentration camps.
Yeah, if you take a powerful enough telescope, you can see shit on the moon. We went there.
Yeah,
we have
the stuff
dust
is
that we
there.
brought back from the moon. It's moon dust. You won't find anything like it on Earth except the stuff that we brought back from the moon.
Ooh, here's a fun one. Are you guys going to follow the match game 7X format? 6 stars, 2 contestants. I hope you have some good questions lined up for the show. I suggest you do online polls for the audience match, blah, 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 blah. See you at Katsukan, Jeremiah. All right, I'm so happy that there are people out there who actually remember the match game and know anything about it.
Well, there's actually a whole big segment of game show geeks out there. Like, you don't know about them because they're kind of small and they're not really connected with each other.
Yeah, they
but,
do.
they have a whole TV channel.
They do all seem to agree, the people out there, that the match game in the 70s was one of the best game shows ever.
Well, it's not so much...
In terms of fun and humor and watching it and being entertained.
Well, I think that's really the trick with game shows as opposed to just games, is that what makes a great game show is that it is entertaining to watch it, even if you're not playing it, that's what sports are. Game shows are sort of like spectator games that aren't athletic in nature, And what makes a good one is when it's entertaining, and the match game seems to excel at entertaining the crowd, even if the actual game itself is just kind of random. All right. Ooh.
Oh, here's one. I can keep reading them.
You got him? All right.
I got one. I like this. When you guys were discussing anime openers and closers, you mentioned the Origa themes from both Ghost in the Shell standalone complex seasons. Maybe you were speaking of anime in general, but you talked about not understanding Japanese in an anime and enjoying a theme even though you don't understand the language. Just to clear up, the Ghost in the Shell themes are in Russian, I believe. I love them so much that I hunted down the lyrics. I've included them here, but we've all got work to do. He talks a bit more. Why Vegeta? Obviously not his real name, unless his parents are totally awesome. Again, we are well aware that the music in the Ghost in the Shell things was Russian. We were just talking in general about the allure of hearing music in a language you don't understand.
Yes. People often send us emails to tell us things like we didn't know or we got something wrong, and most of the time, they tell us something we knew already. It's like people also send us links to things. I get how many emails are we not reading because they're just links to things. It's like, if you're sending me a link, there's a 99% chance I have seen that link already.
Well, aren't you the king of the internet?
Well, I read Dig, I read Slashdot, I have a lot of RSS feeds to gaming and gadget and nerd blogs and boing boing and all sorts of stuff. If something happens on the internet and there's something interesting to see, the odds are that within 24 hours, I will see it, unless I am on vacation and not using a computer. So send us a link if it's something really cool, but before you send it to us, check to make sure if it's already popular on Dig or Slashdot.
Not even that. Just look at our Dig histories, or even better, if you want to send us a link, just send it to us in Delicious.
Yes, if you're not using del.icio.us, you're not using the internets.
Granted, I'm not as frumpy about this as Scott, and I think it's cool when you guys send us links, because it means that you're trying to contribute to the show.
Well, I know. I'm
not a Captain Grumpy Pants here.
Well, I do like getting any email whatsoever, even if it's just a link, but I am always sort of disappointed when I, ooh, an email from a listener. Ooh, they sent a link, and then I click on it, and it's something I saw a week ago, and then my oohs go,
Plus, in this case, I can see why they thought, why people might have thought, because the way we phrase, we kind of just jumped from talking about the Russian to talking about the Japanese.
I think we do make that mistake a lot, is we'll phrase something, we won't be so perfectly explicit, and people will get the wrong idea about something we said and then hit us on it.
Or there's people like my co-host Scott here who, when I said the guy who writes Dragon Ball, but I didn't say his name, Scott immediately assumes that I don't actually know the guy's name.
Well, because I thought you didn't know the guy's name, because you'll pull that trick.
When have I pulled that trick?
Often.
When?
Just because I can't remember a specific instance doesn't mean I know you can't.
So you're going to read an email? Because I got another one here.
I got one, all right?
All right.
I just listened to the podcast from 8306, ...
Which one was that?
I'll tell you in a second. I want you to know that I just almost peed my pants laughing. When the show came on, I thought, maybe they will do it. Then I thought, ... nah. They will have someone in place of them. You didn't. It was awesome. If I had your address, I would mail you a box of kudos, Steve. I think this Steve guy is going through the archives listening to stuff. But
actually, it seems really interesting to me that most of our new listeners are going through the archives. Our old episodes are getting hammered.
Yeah, it seems like, normally I would expect a graph of episode downloads. I would expect the oldest episodes to be low on the graph and the newer episodes to be high on the graph, like a big diagonal line. But actually, it's sort of like this horizontal line, and the whole thing goes up sort of equally as people go through the archives. Now, for me, some podcasts, I go through the archives. Like 12 Byzantine Emperors, got to go through the archives.
Yep. Well, I guess for me, it really depends on how much time I have, how good the podcast is. I mean, if a podcast is great or I love it, I'll go through the archives. And like Movies You Should See, I've listened to almost every show they've done at this point.
Yeah, but other podcasts like Penn Radio, you don't go through the archives. You pick out, obviously, you do go through and pick out the choice episodes from the archives, because there are some oldies but goodies. But you don't listen to everything. I mean, what the hell? But, yeah, if you want to listen to all our archives, more power to you. I don't recommend it, but if that's what you want to do, you're crazy awesome. All right, let's see here. Yeah,
we should wrap.
So that episode 8306, that was the last one we did before Otakon. That was special number...
special number 6 or 7 or something?
No, I think it was number 4 or...
I don't remember.
But yeah, basically when we went to Otakon, we said that we were trying to get other people to do the episodes for us, and we did. But
Yeah, it was actually 2 of the movies you should see, people.
Yep, they did it on the Monday. But the day before, on the Thursday, when we left for Otakon, we put up a short episode. And if you want, you can go into our archives. This will teach you how to go into our archives and listen to the 8306 episode. And you'll see it's pretty funny, I think. At least one guy laughed.
All right, we should probably end this since it's Thursday and I'm tired and we got to go to a con tomorrow.
Yeah. Do you want to do one more and that's it?
Yeah, let's do one more. I won't read this whole thing. It's really long, but thanks to Frankie G for the email. I know you've heard it 1,000 times now, but thanks for putting on a fun show. I wanted to thank you guys for turning me on to Carcassonne.
Oh, Carcassonne is a good board game.
Got to play it for the first time last night. We all had a good time. I won the first game, and they did a little king making to keep me from winning the second game. The bastards. You have a good set of friends if they're smart enough to do that. So, which expansions are worth getting, and do you guys like playing with or without the river?
Okay.
We talked about this.
Let's split that up into 2.
Yeah. The river, in my opinion, is a bit shit.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the river.
I mean, I guess it could be good to teach people how to play, but it really just kind of ruins the game, especially if you play against me, Captain Farm.
Yeah, I don't really see a point in the river. All it seems to do is force people to put down some farmers early and then go on with the game as usual. Just starting the game out normally without the river seems to be just fine and concentrates a lot more on the core mechanic without throwing this kind of wacky river in the middle of things.
Wacky, wavy, inflatable, arm-flailing river man.
Yeah. As for what expansions, it kind of depends what you want.
They're mostly crap.
Yeah, most of the expansions are gimmicky and just kind of cute. Like the Princess and the Dragon, if you want a wooden dragon, go get it.
Well, I mean, all we really play with now are the one that adds the inns and the cathedrals.
It's called Inns and Cathedrals.
Aha! Oh, thanks to that. And we bought the tower. We don't play with the tower. I just bought it so I'd have the tower to put all the tiles in while we play.
Yeah. Actually, my number one recommendation to you, if you want to play Carcassonne with expansions, is the game is pretty cheap. The Inns and Cathedrals are pretty good, and you probably want that set because it gets a lot of tiles that the normal set doesn't have that makes the game a little better. But also, the greatest expansion to Carcassonne is another set of Carcassonne.
However, be wary. If you add another set to Carcassonne, the more sets you add, the more important farming becomes and the more powerful certain moves become. And the game becomes unbalanced very quickly.
Yes, the game will also take a lot longer, and you need to figure out how many meeples you're going to give to people because when the game is longer and there are more tiles, you need more meeples, or maybe you just have to manage the meeples you have more carefully. But I think it definitely makes it a more exciting game for experienced players.
Yes. Now, he has another whole half of this. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to paraphrase here. But on to the Trigun podcast. Just for the record, I do like and have owned the series on DVD. Miniature Around the Sun, blah, blah, blah. I hope you received some feedback. Damn, you guys really downplayed Nishimura Satoshi. While he hasn't done all that much, he did go on to direct Hajime no Motherfucking Ippo, a.k.a. Fighting Motherfucking Spirit. A show I find superior in probably every way to Trigun. Now, I haven't actually seen this show yet. Daryl Surratt and Anime World Order and you have talked it up to us.
And Dave and Joel.
And we got a couple other emails about it. I haven't seen it. All I have to say is that if you're saying that it's better than Trigun and all of Trigun, that's a really heady claim.
That's pretty heavy right there.
We're gonna watch Hajime no Motherfucking Ippo.
Yeah, isn't it a sports anime about boxing?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I like boxing. I mean, what was that movie we watched? The one with Clint Eastwood in it?
I don't remember.
Whatever, the $1 Million Baby.
Yep.
Or Rocky, or anything like that. I like boxing movies.
You never saw the first Rocky movie, you said.
No, I never saw any of the rest of the Rocky movies.
Oh, okay.
And I never saw the first Rocky movie in one go.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway, I think Trigun might be better, but I haven't seen this show, so I can't really say. But if this show is better than Trigun, it's going to be in my top 5.
Yeah, so that you got a big heavy claim here. We'll see if you can live up to it.
Better than Trigun puts it right up there with Cowboy Bebop, Escaflowne, and I know Dave and Joel will hate me, but Evangelion.
Yeah.
Which, as much as I agree with you on every one of your points, you can't deny that Eva was a well-done show.
Yeah. Actually, I think I want to do one more email and that's it.
All right.
Because actually from some people I wanna mention. So, you remember we did that interview with Luke Crane and such?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, well, he mentioned some people in the podcast in that interview, and then those people finally found out about it and contacted us.
Wow, talk about a roundabout.
I know, right? So he says, "Gentlemen, I'm the writing half of the team that produces the Dire Destiny webcomic. I recently happened upon your podcast interview with Luke Crane from October 06. Thereabouts about Burning Wheel and UberCon 8. It was well worth listening to, as I got to hear either Luke or Tor describe Dire Destiny as really freaking awesome. I'm always looking to promote the site, even though we're in a bit of a lull right now. And on top of that, we're releasing a D&D 3.5 adventure sometime in the next couple of months.
Ooh.
I don't know if either of you have seen Dire Destiny, but if you have, and if you need grist for your show, I'd be happy to make myself available for an interview. I'm in Virginia, and the artist Mikolaj is in Poland, but maybe we can work something up over the net with Skype or something. Thanks for your time, Robert. A webcomic that I am not reading, yet the person is a fan of our show. Perhaps we should read their webcomic.
Yeah, we also got to start reading Apple Geeks.
I don't know if I'm going to read Apple Geeks. We'll see.
I'll probably like it. Every time someone tells me to read a webcomic, and I actually do, I end up liking it.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess anyone out there looking for a new webcomic, Dire Destiny seems to have cool people who know how to spell and punctuate.
Yeah, that was a well-formed email.
Even though he didn't capitalize Skype. Yep.
That's okay, because Skype is becoming a generalized term.
That's true. But his email was better written than pretty much every other email I have here. And his webcomic may or may not be cool. And since the guy likes D&D and Burning Wheel, he's probably a cool guy. And thus, it is likely that his webcomic is cool.
So anyway, we mostly did this episode to prove to you all that, yes, we read the email we get. You can keep sending it to us, but we're not going to read it in every episode because that doesn't seem to be what you guys want. Of course, if that's changed, let us know.
Yes, we also did this episode because we're lazy and we do not want to come up with some other idea of something to talk about.
Yes, I'm ready to play Phoenix Wright until I fall asleep.
Yeah, if you didn't realize, the hardest part about Geeknights is coming up with what to talk about, not actually doing the talking.
Yeah, we do more pre-production than post-production these days.
Oh well, the show was easy, and now it's over.
We'll see you Monday when we're probably going to talk about how NAT works, since a lot of people have a lot of trouble with it.
A lot of people don't even understand what the hell NAT is.
So if you're a new listener and you're not so up on tech, I'd recommend you check out our recent Monday episode on networking for layman's.
Yep, and then you will be much better prepared to understand the next show on NAT.
Yes, but it'll definitely be at that same level of technical whatnot, so it's not going to be some sort of doctoral thesis here.
We should make it a doctoral thesis and say we're doing it at a layman's level and see what people say.
God, start talking about algorithms for assigning IP addresses based on... Okay. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.